Hello, everyone. Really lovely to have you join us this afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. I suppose it could be different time zones that you're joining us from. So I'm Dr. Dimitra Fimi. I am Senior Lecturer in Fantasy and Children's Literature, and I convene the Fantasy MLitt program, and I also co-direct the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic. And Holly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, of course. I'm Holly Willis. I am a first-year PhD student here at the University of Glasgow, and before starting my PhD, I was a student in the Fantasy MLitt course for the academic years of 2020 to 2021.
There you go. Excellent. Okay, so I understand most of you will have seen my welcome email and my welcome video, and also a video with a bit of a more extended presentation about the university and the course and the other extracurricular opportunities, etc. So we're here to actually answer any questions from my perspective as an academic, but also from Holly's perspective as somebody who's been through the program and has come through the other side and now is, as she said, doing her PhD. So yeah. Please feel free to put your comments. Send us your comments as they come, and clearly there are no stupid questions. There are no questions that are, just ask what you need to ask. We're here to help you. I was just there's one question that came to me online from somebody who cannot join us today, and I was thinking I might as well address it now, and that was about the difference of doing the course full-time versus part-time. So the full-time is the schedule that you can see online on the course website. So it tells you there that on semester 1, you'll be doing your core course, 2 core courses and an option. And in semester 2, you'll be doing another core course and 2 options. And then in the summer, you'll be doing your dissertation. But if you are doing the course part-time, then you'll be doing all your course nearly all your course and only one option in year 1. So you'll be doing your 2 course in semester 1, 1 core in semester 2, and 1 option. And then in the second year, you'd be doing the remaining options and the dissertation. So it's sort of equally spread. It's like, taking the full-time year and cutting it into half, literally, in terms of credits, etc. But do ask me any further questions on that if you have them. Holly, you did yours full-time, right?
Yes, I did mine full-time.
There you go.
Yes, it's the 12 months, so September to September is the full-time, if I can remember correctly.
That's right. Yep, September to September, exactly that. And then usually graduation would be the December following your completion. Yeah. There's a good question here. When do you get to pick your options? So the moment you have, the moment you enroll, then all your options are open there for you. So that usually tends to happen late August. The exact date will depend every year, but it's the moment you get your registration done and your enrollment kicks in, then you can see all the options there. And you can choose. And the website lists only some of them are popular ones, but the choices are actually can be quite bewildering at times, because you can choose from across the English literature, but also from across the college. So you could be doing an option on, philosophy or art history or something that particularly interests you. So yeah, it's a very big selection, but I tend to sort of give you examples of what people tend to go for when they're interested in fantasy. I hope that makes sense. If you want more clarification on that, let me know. Okay. So there's a question here about optional courses. Okay. Optional courses that can be taken at the honours level. Okay, right. Okay. So that is a slightly complicated Glasgow thing. And it's a good point you're asking this. So in the Scottish university system, the undergraduate degree is 4 years, right? So your 4th year is the equivalent of a master's degree. So when people are doing their 4th year undergraduate, that is equivalent, or more or less equivalent, to a master's degree, which means that for your options, you can, not for all courses, but the courses who allow that, you can pick a 4th year undergraduate course, and some of them have versions that are at master's level and at 4-year undergraduate course. One of them is the science fiction course that sometimes you see listed on the website for the fantasy course. Another one is, I think, Fantasies of Energy is one of them, or Futures, one of those that my colleague Dr. Rhys Williams is teaching. So those ones will have been will be available in both formats, both, if you're a 4th-year undergraduate or a master's student. So you will see which ones have the option for that. Does that make sense? I can go through that again if need be. Hopefully that has answered the question. Okay. There's another question about, okay, that is a very good question. Is it possible to change your options that you pick at registration, or is that a permanent choice? You can sometimes, people will go to the first session and they'll realize, actually, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This course doesn't quite fit, my expectations. So there is a chance to change that, but it has to be done quite soon. There is usually a deadline that the administration team will let you know about, but it's not more than probably a week's worth of content, because otherwise, if you switch later, you will have missed too much of the other course you're going to choose. Does that make sense? So yeah, there is a chance, but you can get a flavor of the course, I suppose. And if it doesn't work, and you were still sort of between two, then you can still change. But sometimes that can be difficult in terms of numbers. That's the only thing I will say. Do your research and try to sort of make a good decision at the beginning, because sometimes you might want to choose a course that is full at that point. So that's the only thing that can be problematic at a later point. I hope that's clear. Okay. All right. Holly, do you remember any of that? Do you remember how you made your choices, or how you navigated that sort of choosing, the option courses? Because the core ones are easy. We just, you have to do them to complete the course.
Absolutely. I do remember being a little bit overwhelmed just the sheer amount of choice, which, of course, is an advantage overall. But my focus in particular was I wanted to do as much sort of like fantastical related courses as possible. So I focused on the descriptions of them, sort of fantasy across media, and then sort of branching out into some subjects I hadn't heard of before. So Fantasies of Energy, just as I was very intrigued, ended up being a really good course. I actually, for the first semester, I did switch out one of my courses. I actually found that to be really, really easy to do. Although one of the reasons is I did switch it out like just before classes started. So instead of American modern literature, I did Fantasies across media instead. So what it's like to switch, like once you've actually started the classes, I don't have experience with that. But in terms of like just having a sudden realization of, I want to change it during actual enrollment, I found that very easy to do.
Yeah, good. It's all done on the My Campus system, which is something that most students control themselves. So it's not a complicated process in terms of, you don't have to contact people and make the change. It tends to be self-service. I'm seeing a question. Oh, sorry, a follow-up. Yep. So if I'm understanding correctly, there are 2 versions of some courses, 4th-year undergraduate and otherwise normal, and 1 optional course can be taken at the formal level. Yeah. So yes, it's only those courses that have the double option that you can take at undergraduate level. No. Okay, let me say it again. The levels that have the courses that have the 2 versions, you can take more than one off. It's in those exceptions where you want to go to 4th-year undergraduate that doesn't have the 2 levels, that you can only do one, and it'll depend on space. It'll depend on it'll probably be a discussion with me at the first place as your convener to see if that fits or if that works or if that would be possible for you. Does that help? So it could be more than one of the ones with the 2 versions. I hope that helps. That's what I was saying before. The Glasgow system gives you sometimes too much freedom, I think. But I prefer that to sort of having a regimented situation where you don't have much choice. So yeah, good. Excellent. Okay. There are, in my longer video presentation, I did talk about 2 new options that are only coming in this year. So you will be the first cohort who will have the option to do those 2. And these are, so Holly, you didn't have those back then, sorry. But these are a fantasy and medievalism course. So that, with the core courses, we start a chronological study of fantasy from really the 18th century till today. So the fantasy and medievalism course takes you before then. It takes you back to the Middle Ages and back to taproot texts. So those sorts of texts that come long before the 18th century that feed into modern fantasy. So that's the one course that is new. And the other one that's new, that is a course on world building, which is something we discuss a lot. It comes up a lot in discussions on other courses, but that'll be a dedicated course to theorize and explore creatively and sort of theoretically world building as a practice and as an art as well. So there we go. Okay. So I've got a question about dissertations. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's always a good topic to talk about. What's the latest time one can pick a subject for the dissertation? Oh, you'll have plenty of time, because you will not be asked to submit a dissertation proposal. So what you hope to do for your subject until March into the course. So you will have started in September, you will have had a whole semester of teaching, you will have nearly finished the second semester of teaching as well. And it's at that point when we will ask you to make a decision and put in a proposal, which will then come to me and the team. And we will then, first of all, discussing the feasibility. Is this, is the idea working? Is it, can it be done within the confines of a dissertation? And then we would allocate your supervisor based on specialism. So there's plenty of time. And I usually advise students to go and see tutors with the expertise they're thinking of working towards the dissertation during office hours. So office hours happen every week. Every tutor has an office hour once a week, and you can go in and discuss anything. So that is a time, this is a place to try ideas for dissertations, but you will have quite a bit of time to do that. Hopefully it answers that. Do you remember that process, Holly, for you?
Yeah, absolutely. From the very beginning of the course, I had no idea what I was going to write for my dissertation. But it was actually the classes that I took that sort of gave me insight on Gothic literature through the lens of the fantastic. Just qualitative, that was this is it. And you get
Sure. So that's it. That's a good point there, Holly, because we do get lots of people like you who. Oh, I think we've got a bit of a delay in the connection.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we've got people like Holly who come to the program.
Topic on, which was feminist.
Sorry, I'll stop for a second. Let the Wi-Fi catch up. What was I saying? Yes. So we get students like Holly. That's all right. Don't worry. We get students like Holly who come with a specific idea already in their minds, and that's absolutely fine. People come with specific research interests, but they will often find that this can be modified or shaped by the theoretical and textual material that you will do in the course. And there's other people who come with a vaguer idea, or maybe no idea at all, but it's through the courses you will do and through the texts you will visit. You will have a pretty clear sense. By Christmas, I would say most people have a clear sense of what they want to do. It can still get shaped by the second semester teaching, but it tends to be sorted. I hope that answered that question about dissertations, but happy to return to dissertations. I know people get stressed about them, and I know also that different universities do them in different ways. So anything like that, do ask us. Oh, good question. There's a question about what can you do over the summer to start the year right. How can you prepare? Well, once you've accepted your offer, you will be at some point in the next couple of weeks, actually, you will be getting a reading list from me for the core courses. So you will have a clear sense of which texts we will be covering for Fantasy 1 and Fantasy 2. And these are the courses everybody has to do on the course, on the program. So my advice usually is start reading, because there's a lot of reading to do, especially the bigger texts. We do Titus Grown by Mervyn Peake in semester 1. We do Fellowship of the Ring. There's a William Morris novel in the first semester. So, they're big, chunky books. So the more reading you do in preparation, the less catching up you will be having to do during the semester, right? I suppose you could look at some theoretical reading as well, but we will have more time to sort of go through that and see and apply it in texts and sort of discuss it in more detail. So it's up to you for that. When I give the list of primary texts, I will be giving you a list of some key theoretical texts as well. But yeah, get reading, get thinking about what it is that you want to do. Research those options. Have a look on the English literature courses, have a look at the arts, College of Arts courses, etc. But yeah, as much reading as possible, I would say. There's never that any time you can give yourself to be sure you're caught up, it would be good, because the moment you are here, then it all starts all at the same time. All the courses start at the same time. So there we go. Okay. Anything else, Holly? Anything you remember or you'd like to advise, having been through the experience?
I definitely remember doing a lot of summer reading. The reading lists were available for core courses, so I just went through those. I was quite lucky as I'd read about half of what was already on the lists as a fantasy reader. But like some of the larger works, like you said, William Morris, I'm very glad I read those before we started working through the lessons. But I found it was quite helpful to return to fantasy texts, which I'd loved in the past and got me into fantasy, and just start looking at them through the lens of like critical analysis, which I'd never done before, and just start getting used to looking at these texts, which I love so much, in a new critical light, and just kind of practicing a little bit. Not like full on writing essays or anything, you've got 12 months to do that. But just sort of
switching your thinking in a way, yeah?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's that getting that sometimes there is no distinction between fandom and scholarship, actually, and I don't want to, I've spoken for many years in conferences that bring together fans and scholars, and that's one of the strengths, I think, of fantasy literature and fantasy scholarship. But try to think, how would I approach this text, a text that I know and love, for example, differently as a critic now, right? So that's one of the things to think about. Okay. There's a question about geography here. Are all the classes generally in the same buildings as each other, or are they more spread out? They can be spread out. It really depends on the timetabling capacity at a different year. Often quite a few of them tend to be around the same buildings because they're local buildings or local rooms, which means they belong to the school, and we tend to use them quite a lot. So you will see some repetition of particular rooms. You will become pretty familiar with certain rooms, but in most cases, you could potentially be moving around campus, which is quite nice, actually. I like teaching sometimes in the more sort of in the older Gothic buildings of the university, or sometimes in the super modern ones as well, so the super up to date, etc. So it can vary quite a lot. Yeah, it really depends. Year to year, that can change. But I think it is fair to say that certain rooms in the little street called University Gardens, or the little square called the Professor Square, you will know quite well, because we will use some of those quite a few times. Yeah. Holly, there's one for you, which I think you've sort of addressed, but let me read it out. Holly, would you say you did any particular reading in prep you'd recommend before the term starts and we get reading lists? So something like right now, before I send the reading lists out. Putting you on the spot there, Holly.
Hi, absolutely. In terms of books that might not be on the reading lists, so if you just want to sort of branch out into the genre yourself, I'd really recommend a combination of sort of what is considered sort of the canonical fantasy text, you know, the ones that immediately spring to mind. But then also stuff that might not immediately come to mind. So like with the fantasy and medievalism course, you know, but much older stuff that ends up being the foundation of later fantasy texts. So like the Iliad, the Odyssey, Beowulf. So if you want sort of a general sense of like how varied the genre could be. In terms of particular sort of academic reading breadth, I would actually not recommend diving into that straight away, because if I had started reading any of the fantasy theory in the summer, I would have been completely lost. Complete and you know, being sort of like guided through those texts, especially like Rosemary Jackson, definitely helped in like understanding the quite complex theory. So yeah, I'd recommend staying sort of like holding the brakes when it comes to theory and wait until the actual course.
Sure, that's lovely. That's a really good idea, actually, and I think you're spot on there where you say try and mix up things as well in terms of your reading. It's good to have maybe read a very contemporary text, one that's just come out, just to see where are we now, you know, which aren't the texts, but which are the texts people are talking about now. And you know, you've got your TikTok recommendations there, your Goodreads and your Twitter. There's so many, you know, it would be unfair for me to recommend one right now, although I can tell you I was reading Rebecca Kwang's Babel very, very recently, which is a fascinating take on fantasy, and yeah, but also the older texts as well. So we know that fantasy is a sort of, you know, fantasy as we understand it today as a genre is a contemporary phenomenon, but it has very deep roots in the past. So yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, let me see. Oh, okay. Do research interests or dissertation topics shift over the course of the semester? Have you observed student ideas completely shift from what they initially were? And has that been a hindrance? Ooh, very, very good question. I think about a third to nearly half of the students actually do completely change their ideas throughout the course, because again, as I was saying before, you come in because you're passionate about this topic, right? You're fantasy readers. You already have a series of particular interests, but the whole point about this course is that you get a wider look at other things that you might not be familiar with, or more historical things, or more contemporary things, or other subgenres that you might not know. So what happens sometimes with people is they come in with an idea of that's what I want to do, and then they realize there's this fascinating other area that I knew nothing about, and now I really want to explore this, and it links, you know, with ways I hadn't thought about before. So it's not unusual for ideas to change, actually, even if you come with a preconceived idea. I would say that it's completely normal, actually. And it's actually not unusual also to put in your proposal. So you've decided now, we're in March, you put in a proposal, and then you end up having a discussion with your allocated supervisor, and they tell you, yeah, that's great, but have you thought about it this way? And then that would also shift at that point. That's why this personal, this tutoring, this one-to-one sort of guidance from your supervisor is quite important. And sometimes it'll be simple things. It'll be like, your idea is great, but that's like 10 PhDs. It can't be done in a master's dissertation. So let's narrow it down and see. Or other times it'll be, you've got those 3 texts you want to look at. I don't think one of them fits. Let's try and find one that fits better with the other 2. So there is change throughout that could happen. And it's not a set thing, really. It's a process. And it'll be shaped by all the teaching, and it'll be shaped with your by your conversations with your dissertation supervisor. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, numbers question. How many students are there in the program? It varies year to year, so I can't give you an exact number because it can go a little bit up and a little bit down. But it tends to be in the high 20s, sometimes in the low 30s. So 28 to 31, 32 has been the numbers in the last few years, which means, of course, I mean, yeah, even if we get to over 20, we'll split you into groups, obviously. We can't have a teaching group, a seminar group is no more than 15 students. So 15 is the absolute max. So you will be in smaller groups anyway, but you will be coming together every now and then for different courses. So yeah, that's it. But again, I can't predict that until we've got our final numbers in. But that's about what to expect. So it's a nice community. It's not too small. It's not too huge. and you will know everybody in your program by their name, and you will get to bond quite a lot. But, I'll leave it over to Holly of that in terms of how it felt in terms of numbers.
In terms of number of students, I found it absolutely ideal, because before master's course I'd done an undergrad degree in English literature at Glasgow, and there was just hundreds of students, and I only got to know a couple of them, so I kind of felt you were just lost in a sea of faces. But with the Fantasy MLitt, because we were doing it in lockdown, and to keep in contact, we made a WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group still exists. We still chat, and we actually started a book club. And we really got to know each other. We helped each other out if we were struggling with any of the theory, a lot of the theory, and discussing ideas for essays and dissertations. And we ended up being quite sort of like a tight-knit wee community, and it was really, really good. Swapping stories about what got us into fantasy literature, and you had people with their different areas of interest. It was a really, really good community, and I'm glad that I'm still part of it.
And I can testify that what Holly just described is my experience with every year I have taught, to be honest. They do, the fantasy groups do get very, very close together. I think some years have used WhatsApp for communication, some others have used Discord, and a lot of our alumni are on our Discord, the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic Discord. So if you want to go and talk to people who have done the course, other people who have done the course before, you can join us there. It's an open one to any fan or scholar of fantasy literature. There's also the bird names. I don't know did I mention that in the video present. I can't remember if I mentioned that. So every year of our Fantasy MLitt cohort chooses a bird name. So that's a tradition that goes back to the beginning of the course, with the program, which started in 2015. So our first cohort were the canaries. The second cohort were the phoenixes. Then we had, I'm going to get it muddled now. We had the ravens. Then we had the merlins. Then we had the I'm messing up the order, but it doesn't matter. The owls, then we had the nightingales, then we had the sparrowhawks. This year they're the nightjars. So I'm wondering what bird you will be, what you will choose as a cohort when you come to that usually a cohort chooses in the first couple of weeks of the course what their name will be. So that's how I will address you, by your bird names. Okay, right. Sorry, I'm just realizing there's a lot of questions coming in. I need to start going through more. Right, are the texts available anywhere online, or will there be specific editions we have to buy or borrow? Thinking about getting secondhand copies. Yes. So when I send the reading list out, there are no particular editions that we're asking for. So the texts that are out of copyright, so the 19th century texts, for example, we're fine for you to read them from Project Gutenberg or any other sort of online publication, and there are lots of those that you can download on your Kindle app or whatever, or something like that. But secondhand are also absolutely fine. So we're not insisting on specific editions for texts. With the contemporary ones, there's usually only the one edition, so I think we're absolutely fine. But with the older texts, you can go ahead and get secondhand. Our university bookshop, there is a university bookshop here on campus. They usually do put a package together of all the books of a particular course, either core course or option courses, and they will give you a discounted price on that. So look out for those offers. But that's, you need to be physically here to sort of take advantage of those. So I presume for Fantasy 1 and 2, you will have probably already, if you want to already start reading, which I think you should definitely look for, secondhand copies or any other version of the text is absolutely fine. For your option courses, you might want to wait and get the packages when you come here, because you will be still thinking about choosing, I suppose. I hope that helps about the editions and secondhand books. Gosh, I hope I haven't missed anything here. Okay. Oh, okay. No, that's not a silly question at all. Somebody is worried about a question that might be silly. For the dissertation, does the topic have to focus on just fantasy novels, or can it also focus on fantasy media and the fantasy narrative in pop culture? It could be anything on fantasy, and it could be on any media. So we've had dissertations on graphic novels, we've had dissertations on video games, we've had dissertations on film and TV. And also there is the option of the creative dissertation, which is the creative critical, in which you might want to be writing your own novel and submit the beginning of it. Or we've had somebody submit a whole game. They wrote a fantasy game and submitted it together with a critical component. So yeah, it's not, when we say fantasy in Glasgow, we embrace all of the different facets and modes and media of fantasy. So yeah, all of those are open for the dissertation. And yeah, we've had some of those actually on non-novels going on to get funding and get a PhD. Yeah, PhD places, posts. What are they called? Yes, you know what I mean. Okay. Right. So talking about sort of employment after the MLitt. So thinking about getting a job while doing the MLitt, and any recommendations on that. Right. So this is where I might need to refer this to our careers team. So I'm an academic, right? I can tell you what I know about what the university offers, but this is not my specialist area. But you will see here on your screen now the link to our career services. And there is a link through, if you click through there, you will see that it will take you to the opportunities of people studying at the moment, in terms of sort of paid jobs, in terms of paid internships, etc. But what I would do if I were you and want to work during your master's is, as soon as you arrive, actually you could do it online as well, I'm sure, register with a career service and get a sense of what it is that you want to do and what they can offer you. There are workshops as well in terms of career opportunities and not just during your studies, but after your studies as well. So that is the place to go and look at more. Again, I'm not the best person to answer this, but hopefully this link will give you more information. Holly, any wisdom on this?
Trying to remember where I worked during my MLitt. For the second half, because of lockdown, of course, I worked mainly retail-related positions. So you know what retail's like. They love getting the students in. So yeah, it's just like the main nature of like at least luckily have enough time to do the essays. Luckily, all of my employers have been very happy to make those accommodations.
That's lovely. That's great to know. Okay, so hopefully that answered the question about jobs. Did I miss anything there? Give me a second. Yeah, I hope so. If not, please ask again and ask for clarification, right? Yeah, and then somebody's asking about particular part-time job recommendations. Again, that'll be through the careers hub and their offerings there. But this is a university that has a lot of legs and a lot of tentacles throughout Glasgow, and that's a very creative city with lots of creative industry. So I would be very surprised if there aren't opportunities that you'd be wanting to take. Okay. Oh, okay. There's more dissertation questions. That's fine. Please keep them coming, because, as I said, this is a big chunk of your program. Dissertation-wise, I know the course is on English literature, but I want to ask anyway, could the dissertation be on Latin American literature or, for example, Mesoamerican mythology? If you're asking whether you can do your dissertation on non-English language texts, right, is that the question, I suppose, here? Because otherwise, if it's in an English language, it does, we're fine. We do actually have this year a dissertation student who is doing their dissertation on a Latin American text. And that's absolutely fine, but I would expect you to be competent in the language that that your text is in, right? Unless you do working with a translation, if you want to work with a text in another language, you need to be able to read that language. So that's the only thing really there. And also, if you're working with a translation, your topic needs to be such that linguistic competence wouldn't stop you from making a good argument and a good analysis, right? So there are some caveats there, but usually I would say that that's fine. Would be exceptions really where this wouldn't work. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I just confused somebody because I have a question. To confirm, we can write a novel for our dissertation. So the dissertation options are two, right? You can either have the critical dissertation, which I think is what you did, Holly, right?
Yes.
You did a critical, yeah. So the sort of literary analysis, theoretically informed, English literature dissertation, or you can do the creative/critical dissertation, in which you will submit a chunk of your dissertation will be a creative piece of work. And yes, it can be the opening of a novel. It can't be the whole novel because you don't have space for that. But it can be the opening of a novel. It can be a collection of short stories. As I said, we've had people doing a game, devising, creating a new game. And then the other half of it, nearly the other half of it, is a critical reflection, a critically and theoretically informed discussion, which takes a question that your creative portion treats, and you answer the same question from a theoretical or critical perspective, right? I know that sounds like a lot at the moment. We will go through all of this in the course in detail. The only thing I'd say about a creative dissertation is that I would expect you to have some experience before launching into a creative dissertation. So usually I would expect that people who do a creative dissertation will take the creative workshop option in semester 2. So they would have had teaching, instruction, guidance on creative writing, rather than do it for the first time ever in their dissertation, which is a bit of a risk, right? You want to have a bit of feedback and background before. So mine is the caveat that you need to have a bit of experience before, which you have a chance to do as part of the course anyway. Yeah, you can do a creative critical dissertation. So it's an option out of 2. Actually, that happens with my children's fantasy. My children's fantasy course is an option course. It's in semester 2. And that also has a dual assessment option. So you can do a traditional essay, but you can also write a children's picture book or a short story for children and do a critical reflection as well. So there are other options there to sort of try your hand if you're thinking about a creative critical dissertation. Okay. Gosh, I'm just realizing the time is going so fast. I just want to make sure I get to all the questions. Slightly abstract questions, but do you find an informal split between a given cohort, with some students leaning towards medieval fantasy and myth making and others more modern science fiction dystopia? It hasn't happened yet. I don't think, you will have students with their own preference in terms of sort of reading preferences or fandom, but I never had a split cohort yet, not in all the years I've been teaching this. We do tend to mix these things up in our courses. So Fantasy 1 will have bits of all of this, and Fantasy 2 will have bits of all of this. And we'll be talking about fantasy as a genre, but also fantasy as a mode, as the fantastic, that actually encapsulates all of these things. So yeah, I don't think the course lets that happen easily, shall we say. And it definitely hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I think it's a nice mix of different things, and people tend to dip in and out of different categories. There's nothing wrong with having a particular interest, and that's fine, but it's engaging with everything and learning from everything and sort of being able to enrich your discussion from everything. Holly, any comment on this?
I found the same thing as you. There wasn't any sort of kind of civil war happening in the cohort. There was a really good balance of, everyone had their various different interests. When it was Tolkien week, I was in there. I was extremely enthusiastic and interested. But then another student in my cohort was really, really into Lovecraft. So like when it came to reading Lovecraft's work, he was really, really, and he led the discussion completely. And that's the presentations each week, actually, each sort of have the wee moment where they get to gush about something in a weeks and about a completely different topic.
Right. I think we lost you there for a second, but it's good you mentioned the presentations, right? So a big part, well, a small part actually in terms of percentage, a small part of your assessment for Fantasy 1 and 2 is to lead the discussion of a seminar each week. So each one of you will, or a couple of you will lead the discussion each week, because you will be presenting on that text that we'll be doing on that week. And that means that you will get a chance to benefit from other people's research interests, exactly as Holly was saying. So there will be people who we'll definitely want to do the Tolkien week, or we'll definitely want to do the Lovecraft week, or the Gothic week, or whatever it is. And that's again a good way of sort of mixing up these sort of interests. But again, other people will say, I want to save the Gothic for my essay, so I don't want to do it for the presentation. So, again, there are different assessments there, and you can try different things as you go through. Okay. Back to the dissertation question. What if we already did creative writing in undergraduate? Yeah, I think that's fine, as long as you've had experience in creative writing and you're not coming at it first time ever in your dissertation. I'd be fine with that. But what worries me is you don't want to do this for the first time in your life in a dissertation, because that's a high stakes sort of, policy, really, isn't it? It's a big, as I said, a big chunk of your overall grades. So experience beforehand is fine. Just come and talk to me if you're unsure, and that we can sort it out on the ground. Recommendations of fantasy-related events or places to attend outside the university. I talked a little bit about that in the longer presentation. So the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic, which is where your master's is sitting under in terms of the research umbrella, is always putting on different events throughout the year. And we have our annual conference, GiftCon, which is run by PGT and PGR students and also early career scholars. So you will have actually the opportunity to present if you want in your first conference, or if you don't want to present, you can be involved in organizing and getting experience of chairing sessions and being part of the conversations that'll happen there. So GiftCon happens every year, and then every year we do different events. So what I would suggest is that you go on the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic website, and I'll see if I can get the link now. And there is a tile there. I don't know if can I post the link? Oh, well done. You've got it there. Excellent. There we are. So the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic has different tiles and different areas of what we do, so you can get a sense there of the sort of events and extracurricular things that you'll be able to be involved in. If you go to the tile that says past events, that gives you a run through of every event we've done so far. Very often those events have been recorded, so you can actually go back and watch when we've had a famous author talking to us, for example, or we talked about D&D, or we've talked about sort of fantasy and ecology, any of these things. That's a good prep, actually. There's a good point. Whoever asked before, what can we be doing in the summer? That's another thing you could be doing, is go and watch some of our old events and get a sense of where the conversation about fantasy is at the moment. So these kinds of events will happen next year. We are actually now putting the program together for next year's, from next year's session, from September to the following August. I know, for example, as I said, GiftCon will happen anyway. There is a collaboration with the Tolkien Society for a mini symposium with them that is in the works at the moment. There's all sorts of different ideas that I'm not allowed to say much about yet. So yeah, we will be keeping you informed about all the events that will be happening at the university. In terms of outside the university, again, we will be doing some things together. So we often sometimes go out for a film viewing, or there might be exhibitions that we might want, that we will suggest for you to go and see. There will also be theatre performances that, again, Glasgow we're spoiled for choice here in terms of sort of the cultural landscape of the city. So there'll be performances we might suggest. There will be book launches. The Waterstones in the city centre is very, very, is excellent for fantasy, actually, and bringing in authors as well. So we will be letting you know as soon as we know about any of those events. If anything, I think you'll probably get a lot more info than you can actually go and do. You'll have to choose what interests you in terms of that. There's so much happening in the university all the time and outside in wider Glasgow. Okay. Right. So a question from an international student who's trying to make sense of the collegiate system in the UK. Good luck with that. It took me a while. So the question is there any possibility of taking another option course while writing your dissertation in the summer? Nope. you need all your time to be writing your dissertation in the summer. You do not want to be doing a course during the summer. I assure you, absolutely. It feels like it might be an easy thing to do. It is not. There's a lot of work, a lot of drafting, a lot of redrafting, meetings with your supervisor, getting your sources in order. What there is, though, during the summer is there will be bespoke sessions about how to write a better dissertation, which are led by the Central College, right? So the College of Arts will run sessions on how to be better with criticality, how to be better with referencing, how to improve your forming an argument, these sorts of things. So there will be taught sessions in the summer, not as part of the formal course, but as options and that won't go into your program. You won't get credits for that, but it's to help you get your dissertation underway. So these will be available in the summer for you. But no, you do not want to be doing a course in the summer. Okay. Holly, I don't know if those sessions run. They must have run online that year when you were on the course, right? The dissertation sessions. But I know that they're running. Everything's running back on campus now, anyway. So, yeah. Okay. I hope I haven't missed anything. If I have, please repost or let me know. There you go. One more question. Did you say we can choose to present topics for the conference? Yes, absolutely. So GIFCON is Glasgow International Fantasy Conversations. Again, if you go on the Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic website, there is a tile for GIFCON, which will give you, what we did this year, but also previous GIFCONs as well. Thank you for posting the international link there. So GIFCON is run mostly by our PhD students and some of our staff, but also our master students are very much involved in terms of organizing. So we'll have one committee member from all of you who will join the committee, who will be the liaison between yourselves and the conference. And we also have a ring-fenced number of presentations that will go to you. So usually what happens is a few students every year submit their papers, and some of them are selected to be presented at a conference. This is an option, completely optional, but for those of you that are thinking, for example, of going into academia, or who are thinking about going into a career that needs to show that sort of presentation, those presentation skills outside the academy, because GIFCON is attended by fans as well as scholars, that's an option for you. So yeah, there's definitely that opportunity. Great. Right, I hope I haven't missed anything here so far. I'm just trying to think of what other questions usually come up that we haven't talked about. We talked about extracurricular things. We talked about options and dissertations, and that's completely typical. These are the questions we get every year. Yeah, there's about 5 minutes we have left, so this is your last chance, people. You can, of course, drop me a line if something comes up suddenly, in an hour's time, and you think, oh, I should have asked this. You can always email me, but take the opportunity now while me and Holly are here. Maybe anything on the student experience that you'd like to ask Holly about? Or is any of you thinking about doing the master's with a view to staying on for a PhD, which is what Holly has done? She's doing her PhD at the moment. Okay. There's a question, very practical question. What referencing system is used for essays? Yeah. So there are lots of referencing systems, as you very well outlined here. There's the Harvard, and there's the Chicago, and there's the MLA, and there's lots of them. I think I must in my career I must have published in every referencing system that there is. So there is a preferred school referencing system, which is the MHRA. However, recognizing that you're here for 1 year only, and that most of you will be used to a different referencing system from your previous course, from your undergraduate course, we are happy for you to stick to the referencing system as long as you use it correctly and consistently. And believe me, we will know. We will publish, all of the team has published extensively and in different systems. So yeah, just as long as you use the system correctly and consistently, you're fine to stick to the system already. And that goes for the dissertation as well, all your coursework and your dissertation. But if you're not sure and you want, you want to use the school system, you can use that as well. It's absolutely fine. great. It's good. It's good to hear really good practical questions. Specific things. That's great. Okay. Right. Question about scholarships of funding if you plan to stay for a PhD. So we will go through all of that in the first semester of the course. There will be a bespoke session about funding for PhDs if that's what you want to do, or if that's what we might be considering. So there is a national funding scheme, which is the AHRC, the Arts and Humanities Research Council scheme, and the particular Scottish section of that, which is called SAGSA. You don't need to remember any of those acronyms, but yes, there are opportunities to apply for PhD funding either at national level. Sometimes there could be opportunities at Scotland level as well, depending on what topic you're doing. So if it's a Scottish topic, there will be other opportunities as well. And also there will be opportunities that are local to you based on, for example, your nationality or the languages you're speaking, etc., etc. So we will go through all of that in the research training course, which is an obligation. It's a core course you're all going to do in semester 1. But yeah, that funding is always competitive. I need to say that because that's the truth of it. But you will have guidance and a chance to apply for sure. Yeah, we can't guarantee these things. Nobody can, but that's how it is. But we have had lots of fancy students get that funding in the past. Okay. Question for Holly. Holly, what was your favorite part about the program?
Ooh, there were so many.
That's a tough one.
When it boils down to it, it's just the opportunity to spend 12 months just immersed in the genre and the books that I love the most. Just completely both revisiting texts that I adore and have loved for many years, but then being introduced to new texts that previously I hadn't even considered were actually fantastical. And now all I see now is fantasy literature. I was like, it's over there and over there. But yeah, so yeah, that idea of just like being fully immersed and just opening up this academic field, which I previously didn't even know existed, and now I'm hoping to actually work in. So yeah, just sort of being able to open those doors and just be able to work in the genre that I love so much.
Lovely. That's really lovely. I'm the lucky one because I get to do this every year differently, because every cohort of students will bring in their own insights and their own ideas and their own interests. And it's just, and we will change texts every now and then, but the majority, the big canonical ones will stay the same, of course. But of course, the research changes and the way the things we publish change and the conversation moves on. So it's fascinating to see how it changes from year to year, from my perspective. Okay, I think, well, gosh, we're 1 minute before the end of this. I think I don't see anything we've missed here on my, right, there's a question about the welcome video. So there will have been 2 videos that I did. The one is a very quick welcome one where I'm just showing you very quickly, so the main bit of the campus. And I'm just saying it's lovely. It's lovely to have you, and just introducing myself very briefly. But the longer one, I think, is about half an hour, maybe a little bit longer, in which I'm just going through the structure of the program, the types of teaching we're going to do, and also extracurricular things, the center, the conference, all of those things in some ways that I mentioned today, but in a slightly more structured way, because today we went sort of back and forth with questions. So I think, depending on when you had your offer, you might have had it already, or you might get it quite soon. It depends on when you applied and when your offer was made, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. I think this is us. As I said, do drop me a line if anything else comes to mind that we didn't answer today, or you're unsure about, or you're worried about, all of these things. That's absolutely fine. Thank you very much all for coming, and thank you for really, really good questions, actually. And many thanks to Holly for joining me today, because it's one thing to hear from me, and it's another to hear from somebody who's actually done all of this already and is moved on to a PhD now. So there we are. Right. Thank you all very much. I'm looking forward to